Bonjour, mesdames et messieurs. Welcome to Fantasia Film Festival's world premiere of Minor Premise. This is one of my favorite films of this festival. It's the perfect film for, I think, a world coming out of the pandemic and isolation, especially because I think we were all kind of scrolling through our emotions and trapped in our basement trying to work ourselves out just a little bit. This film is not only mysterious and dramatic and pensive, it's also really heartfelt and at times even kind of funny. My name is Justin Langlois, and it is my honor to introduce you the brilliant cast and crew of Minor Premise. So come on in, guys. We have Eric Schultz, Thomas Torrey, Sathya Justin Moretto, Paton Ashbrook, and Dana Ashbrook. Sorry about that, buddy.
Thanks,
So,
Justin.
How's everybody doing?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Great, man.
Great.
Justin, in?
There he is.
Yeah.
There he is.
Justin.
Firstly, I think everybody is wondering, and it's on their minds, is there an extended dance sequence, and when can we see it?
We were actually just looking at it today, or we were looking at the behind the scenes today and laughing about it. But yeah, there is an extended dance sequence. Sathya, you guys want to talk about it?
Sathya, you got some moves. You got some moves, man.
Thank you. Thank you very much. No, that was one of the more exciting and also difficult things to shoot. It was very hot that day. It was incredibly hot, and I was feeling nauseous most of that shit. I was dying.
I think we applied ice packs to your body.
Yeah, he was really a trooper. Well, Justin, we were shooting in a warehouse in Brooklyn for the lab, and it was in the middle of the summer, and you know, the song is like 3.5 minutes long, and so I feel like I think it was the first take where it's just like, all right, let's just go, let's play the whole thing through and just, you know, get as much as we can on the kind of the long lens. And Sathya just went for it and was totally burnt out by the end of the first take. And then, you know, we had to do
rookie mistake.
But we did. It was like, I mean, you were a real trooper about it, because it was like it was like applying ice and water and
electrolytes.
Yeah, and electrolytes. Yeah, it was a thing, but
it was touch and go there for a second, eh?
It was touch and go there. So the answer is yes. There is an extended.
There is.
Oh yeah.
Awesome. I'm excited to see that.
Well, the fun thing about it is Allie's part of the extended one too. She showed.
Really?
Yeah.
Surprise.
Was it?
Alert.
So Sathya, was it really difficult to like just scroll through these personalities and change and jump?
Yeah, it was a bit of a carousel of my own, like, kind of worst nightmares going through. It was a very schizophrenic experience, but I had really smart hands to guide me. I relied so much on Eric and Thomas and Justin, and frankly Paton as well, to like tell me where I was, what I was doing, and hopefully try and to tap into something real that felt authentic, that didn't feel too caricature-y when trying to figure out what those colors look like and what those sections look like. But it was definitely a strange experience to go from like levels of sickness close to death, and then to shoot something in 45 minutes that was near the beginning of the film, and then to jump back. It was a kind of experience where I felt like I was always chasing the horse. But I think Ethan is kind of also chasing the horse in the film, so it's kind of it kind of helped, I think, for me. And
you're fantastic. You're absolutely brilliant. You're amazing.
Thank you so much. Thank
you. So Eric, you've produced 17 films. You're the co-founder of Relic Pictures. Yeah. what was it like leaving the producer? Well, you were producing too, but like, how was it directing now? This is your directorial debut in a feature.
Yeah.
What was it like changing to this, and what did you learn from it?
A lot. I mean, it was a learning curve, and I was really lucky to have a lot of really great collaborators. Thomas and Justin, as the co-writers on it with me, we had spent a lot of time preparing together. Thomas is a filmmaker in his own right and a director in his own right, and I always felt like I had his sort of support and security. And then, the other producers, guys like Ross O'Connor and Chad Harbald, who also doubled as the first AD. Like Chad is a filmmaker himself. So the thing I was thinking a lot about when I was constructing the team around me was trying to find people that would be just really strong collaborators and just really supporting the vision and supporting my initial instinct, but always trying to push to make it better. So I guess in terms of like moving from the producing side to the directing side, it had a lot of challenges, but I feel like there was a lot of support there to make it through. And then for me, in terms of the mentality, it was every single day, it was just a matter of thinking about how to make the movie better, how to become a better director. And that carried from both the prep and production process through the editing process as well. That was always sort of the focus, and the good days were the days where that was the focus, was just getting better.
Amazing. Well, you mentioned you wrote it with Thomas and Justin. What did you guys each kind of bring to the table? Because I know there was, I'm sure you guys had strong suits in certain departments. What did you guys each bring to the table for that script and for
Well, so Thomas and Justin, I got connected to them several years ago. They had come up with the concept of the film and the early drafts of the film, and that's what really got me connected to it. It really originated from them, and then they were super generous and supportive of me coming on board, and through the rewriting process, letting it become something that was personal to me and personal to my worldview, and ultimately that leading to me asking and them being gracious enough to let me come on as the director. But Thomas and Justin should definitely talk about their experience, sort of like originating the idea of Minor Premise.
Yeah, the first draft was completed by Justin and I in the fall of 2013. I had the idea in 2012, the basic concept, and Justin and I, he's been one of my best friends for years, so we were good friends. And he's a scientist who loved movies. I was a filmmaker who loved science, so we had a couple commonalities. And I was like, dude, I got this idea for the sci-fi. Do you want to write it together? And so we dove in and wrote the script over the next year, most of it being written in sort of this amazing writers retreat up in the mountains where we just cranked out, and then drafted it over the following year in 2013, 14, 15, and then got hooked up with Eric in 2016. And at that point, when it really became a partnership between Justin and I, we had Bad Theology Pictures, and Eric with Relic Pictures. It really became a trio crafting a new story and a new vision. And we were excited. Relic really had a clear path to getting the film made, and we were excited to go on the journey. And Justin, Moretto, you can talk about the dynamic, but as a scientist, he obviously added the script, infused the script with so much authenticity. And I would often take long passages of science and maybe make it a little more palatable, and he would take my esoteric philosophical and make it more authentic. And we had a really fun collaboration just in the writing of it in those early few years.
Yeah, it definitely was a lot of fun. And I would write just super long pages. And Thomas, I remember the first time, just thinking that this was like a novel, and Thomas would say, so this whole page, it's great, it's beautiful. but we're going to see that in 2 seconds. He's like, you can't take a whole page writing, you know, what you're going to see in 2 seconds. You got to just, you know, that's up to the director. And that was,
Justin had like 9
painful.
published. Justin had like 9 published scientific journals, and he's a very amazing writer, but he'd never written a screenplay.
I'd never even seen a screenplay.
Yeah. So it was, but it was amazing. And then the rest is history with 2016 on, when Eric came on board, and really from then Eric, as he said, really adapted it to his vision, his worldview. Ethan became seen through his lens, and it really became in the hands of the filmmaker and the director, as it should, and it really became part of his voice, and that was really exciting to see. And you mentioned this is Eric's first film, but this is Eric's first film of anything. No shorts, no anything. And for my money, the best first-time filmmaking effort I've ever seen. It's really breathtaking what he accomplished.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. But yeah, it was a really good collaboration. And, I think some of the things that, you guys were just really great about letting me sort of craft it into what I wanted to be. I feel like Ethan probably took a slightly darker turn in some ways than what was originally there. And, the relationship with Allie was infused with a lot of things that were personal, the ideas around regret, the ideas around, some of the moments. I think they were always in sort of the DNA of the film, but just trying to mine a character that really making it a character study about this guy who he's got to realize that he's the reason that he's having issues. He is his own roadblock. And once he ironically goes through this experience where he has to break his personality into his identity into multiple sections, that's when he actually potentially has the capacity to come out the other side as a more balanced person, a person whose sections potentially are in balance. And then, of course, by the end of the movie, it's a question of whether that's really the Ethan that we're seeing, or if there's a darker manipulation that's at play, and and then maybe what's the difference, right? That's hopefully it's something that the audience can sort of like latch on to and leave thinking about.
Sure, man. So I have a question for Justin and Eric. Eric, you graduated from Harvard. You have a BA from Harvard. And Justin, you have a master's from Johns Hopkins, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
And one of the central themes to this film is like getting over, or is dealing with academia and dealing with like legacy. Do you think your background had a lot to do with that, or do you guys have like deep-seated like, Ivy League schools, or do you think that had something to do with it, or when you were writing?
Yeah, Moretto, I'm curious what you think. I mean, I told Justin before that I had thought a lot about Yale and New Haven area in terms of the setting, but hadn't really thought beyond that in terms of like if this was how influenced this was in terms of my college experience. But yeah, Justin, I'm curious what you think.
Yeah, I mean, I have kind of like a love-hate relationship with academia. On the one hand, I mean, there's so much of this, the material in this was directly inspired by real research and, done academia. Eric Kandel is in Columbia in New York City, whose lab we actually visited while we were shooting. And so a lot of this is really built, but there is so much that is like can be painful and toxic. And, there's a lot of issues in academia, but I think one of the biggest things is that there is this tendency to make things more complicated than they need to be. And I think that science should be accessible. And that was one of the things that always frustrated me about it. And I feel like, to me, that is one of the things that this character, he just wants to do the science. He doesn't want to get caught up in the politics of it. Which is why Malcolm was such an evil character, because he was just the embodiment of the politics that Ethan didn't want to be a part of.
Well, but I do think the thing that's interesting about the Malcolm character is that I really, it was really important to me that Malcolm never actually is the bad guy.
Yeah, no, I mean, I was going to be a joke, because the reality is that without the Malcolm character, the Ethan character can't exist, right? And everything shuts down without him.
Well, and I think Malcolm, and I'm curious to hear Dana's thoughts on this, but like Malcolm's always coming from a place of, I think you can see Malcolm through the lens of like he's always actually trying to help Ethan, and he's always trying to he's giving him like as much rope as Ethan sort of deserves, from the very beginning, and frankly, kind of he comes out the worst of it of the group without having without really deserving it necessarily. So,
Sorry, Malcolm.
Permanent brain damage.
And he also, could reap the benefits of whatever, if he could just harness Ethan into, he was still going to get what he needed out of Ethan, regardless. That's what he's still in for that as well as helping himself. He was, helping Ethan. He was definitely helping himself as well. At least I look at it in a selfish way, I guess.
Yeah, and I think the paranoia of Ethan's character made everything seem more nefarious. Even if it was coming from a genuine place.
Right.
And so, Dana, how did you get involved in this project?
I heard about it. The casting people are friends of mine for many years here in New York, and they called me and said that that my niece was doing this movie that I hadn't heard. I hadn't heard that she was doing that yet. That didn't tell anyone. I think she
knew me too.
I heard that she, and I was like, and I think I texted her and I said, are you doing this? And she said, yeah. Oh yeah. This is what I'm doing. And I was like, okay then. So I think I read some scenes and then Eric, I think they sent him off to you, right? And then
it wasn't a hard decision, and Dana literally I think showed up basically the next day and knocked it out of the park. So it was no, seriously, man, it was like it was great to just, and everyone was super excited too. It was like, oh man, like Bobby Briggs is coming to the set, play Malcolm. It was a really cool experience, especially, and it was also really cool telling Peyton that her uncle was going to be coming to set, and
because they hadn't acted together before
too. Yeah, exactly.
No, we haven't. I've acted with her mother, my sister. I've acted with her for sure. And I've acted with your grandma. And I acted with like a lot of
it was my turn,
family, but not you until this.
My turn.
Now look at.
I need to ask, who was in charge of the personalities? Was there like somebody assigned to, okay, this is this and this is there? Yeah.
Well, so we the one thing that we had was we had a huge spreadsheet that the three of us had put together that was, it was all the basically all the hours. And what's interesting is once the experiment happens, everything basically takes place within a 24-hour period. I believe it's like 16 hours, but you've got all those rows and then all of the 6-minute sections over the top. And in the writing process, weaving a narrative thread through every 6-minute section in terms of why Ethan is, coming to in the shower, talking to his mom without any clothes on, why he's like running barefoot through the street, and then why he's waking up on the couch. And so there was a lot of work done in terms of connecting all of those and having a real logic to it. And based on that sort of work in the writing process, I felt like we were able to dial into kind of how each of the sections of Ethan operated. And so there was a really strong sense of how one flowed to the next. And, by the end of it, like we understood all the rules of the world that we had created. We could recite, all the sections in order and how it all worked, and the ability to push through and gain another 6 minutes and all these things. So that was a real asset then when we were on set and, had to keep track of it. And luckily we had a pretty phenomenal script supervisor, David B. Jacobs, that like got it within the first read, which was very rare. Usually we would have to sit people down and say, okay, so like, I know everything is like very confusing, but blah, blah. And then David was like, no, I get it. I actually created a story very similar to this, is what he said. He created a comic book that was similar. So we knew he was our guy at that point.
Yeah, I still didn't get the timeline as we were shooting. I was still confused.
But David always knew, and we knew like
David always
when
knew,
we had to redo a shot because something with continuity was up. We would always know because he would march onto set, and we were like, "Oh no, we're gonna have to. We missed something." But he caught us every time. Like, thank God for David.
Yeah.
We told him it's like he's gonna get to just tell people that it's like, oh yeah, you're the script supervisor that did Minor Premise because of the excessive continuity that and kind of clockwork that we tried to create in terms of not just the different sections, but the time, like the time that was on the monitors, like Sathya, what you alluded to, the levels of sweat. Like our makeup department had basically 5 levels of sweatiness, from like a little bit of sweat to very, very sweaty, and having to switch back and forth in that depending on where we were in terms of the shooting. It was
I defy the audience to go and find the continuity mistakes in this film. Like if they're there,
oh gosh, well,
I want to know.
I'll never forget. I won't tell you where they are, but one particular take, we're ready to move on. We're checking with Sathya. Okay, do we get it all? We're checking with Eric, and then we go, David, and he goes, I'm happy. We're like, all right, we're on the
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
He had so much influence over the script, over the shoot.
I love how you guys are describing him. He sounds almost like the referee who will walk in the middle of the
Oh,
game.
yeah,
Red card, the whistle, and go, okay.
He totally was. But the one other thing I'll say about the sections that Sathya and I spent a lot of time talking about and thinking about is that they're all. It's not a multiple personality movie. It's not Sathya playing, an old woman, then a little kid, and it's all sexual. It's all right. It's all, but it's all one character, and it's just
split.
Right, exactly. It's all just facets of one character, and so
it's Inside Out.
It's actually it is
the
version.
That's so funny. Have we talked about that? When I saw Inside Out, I thought the exact same thing.
I know. I was like, oh, Pixar made our movie.
It's like,
Again.
Yeah. No, it's true though. But making the differences very subtle was something that was always what we were trying to dial into, so that you could tell which section you were dealing with, but it never felt like a different character. It always felt hopefully like a different aspect that gave more color to who Ethan is and what motivates him and the conflicting things that motivate him.
Amazing. So we're going to open it up now to questions in the Q&A section. So Henry asks, why the choice of the color palettes?
Oh, interesting. Yeah. That was, the first thing that comes to mind is I'm a huge fan of the movie Enemy, Denis Villeneuve's Enemy. And that was, I wanted the world to feel what that movie does from the jump, and I wanted to replicate that here. Is you immediately know that the world is off. You immediately know that there is it operates by its own rules, and anything is possible, right? And so you sort of by creating a more surreal color palette, it's the beginning of inducing the audience into the rabbit hole that they're going to be going down. And we really tried, my DP and myself and my colorist even in post, but in the lighting and everything, starting from a place that you could feel it, and it certainly strikes you stylistically from the outset. But then as the movie goes on, similar to Ethan's state, in terms of what we were doing with makeup, in terms of what we were doing with his performance, but even in terms of the aesthetic, we push more saturated, we push more contrast, we push more, sort of yellow and red as the movie goes on, because the intensity of what he's experiencing ramps up over the course of the movie. So that was sort of the logic behind the color choice. And yeah, I think the movie is like a very subjective film from Ethan's perspective, and Ethan isn't a healthy person. And so feeling that sickness in the aesthetic was really important to me.
Thanks, man. We're open to questions, so if you have any more questions, please type them in. So Paton, what was your most challenging, day for you on set? Because of course, there's a lot going on. There's a lot to deal with. You don't know who you're facing off against.
It's a really good question. My most challenging day was maybe, I guess, the day that I had to like work the hardest. Maybe I would frame it that way. Was because a lot of this was easy. Like I was really lucky with the crew and with working with Sathya. Like it just was I was just very blessed and lucky that everything kind of just fit in. But there was one day where it's when he hits me with his elbow and I have to like go down, and there was like this fight moment. Like, is she gonna fight back? Is he gonna keep fighting? And then I have to go immediately and fill up a syringe, which ends up being for Malcolm. But we think it might be for Ethan. So that, I guess, I definitely like, you have to kind of get into a very specific place to do that. And everyone was really lovely and generous with me, of just like knowing that I, between takes, like keeping myself in the place so that I can just keep going again and again and again to get it. But I mean, that's the kind of challenge that an actor loves, because it's like, what else am I doing this for? Like I want to excavate that kind of stuff. I want to be able to go to those darker places and also have a lot of fun. One of the most fun scenes we got to do was the Euphoria scene on the roof, which I think you see flashes of it. But it was just me and Sathya kind of improvising lines and making up backstories for our characters, basically based on things that we got from Eric and Thomas and Justin, but just kind of flowing with that. That was a blast. So yeah, I guess that would be the challenging day, I think, out of all of them for me.
Yeah, that's really interesting. It's interesting that you bring up that moment, because the thing about Peyton is she has such incredible instincts, and sometimes would be more, that was a moment where I feel like you were more dialed in to what the character needed to be expressing than even I was, because I feel like I remember being surprised at the level of sort of emotion and anxiety that was being expressed in that moment. And then sure enough, once you went there and once we had that, it was like, those were the takes that we were using, you know what I mean? Like and then ultimately in the next scene where you are in the bedroom with Ethan and Intellect and having that conversation with him, that really informed how I direct, like your choice in that scene really informed the direction that the next scene took. And man, it really made Allie's character so much more complicated than even what we had originally conceived. So
yeah,
that was all you. So
it's crazy doing, I mean, thank you. I mean, yeah, like Justin was saying, there's a lot being thrown at both of these characters throughout this movie. Luckily for me as an actor, like a lot of it's reactionary, and that's kind of the sweet spot, because like Sathya does a lot of the heavy lifting and like pulling stuff up, and I just get to react to it. But it's important to have both of those dynamics, so that like Allie's journey in a way, I think, is also the audience's journey of this movie. You're learning everything that as it's happening through kind of Allie's eyes, because Ethan's an unreliable, protagonist throughout this whole film. So yeah, I was so lucky that, I was trusted to kind of do my thing, and it was a very collaborative set. So yeah, I agree with all that.
Amazing. So we have a question here from RM. Peyton, what was it like portraying a woman in academia within a male-driven cast?
Oh.
I like these questions. I mean, it was great. I mean, when I read this role, I was like, oh man, this is the dream. This is the jam. Like everything, the probably besides playing Cleopatra in Shakespeare, this was like definitely like the most epic role that I've gotten to play yet, just because of all the dynamics and all of the past relationship stuff that they're also dealing with in this movie, which is more subtext than, we don't hear a lot of that. It's kind of suggested their history. So yeah, there were just so many layers, but I don't know. It's a good question. Sathya, why don't you talk about the acting of this movie? I feel like you did a
We
lot
talk
of
about
that.
Peyton.
I want to know the answer.
The only woman amongst men. No.
Yeah, I'll speak about being a woman in academia.
Well, Peyton,
The only thing I feel like I can really say about it is that I was grateful that I was not only getting to play that character, but that I was trusted to play the character, and that people on set were trusting me to make choices and decisions as an actor, and also as like a woman on set playing this character who's kind of putting her ex-boyfriend back together, which is a really exciting and kind of empowering thing. So it was very empowering for me to play. And I ever since I read the script the first time, it was just like, that's the role that I wish there were more roles like this out there for women, and hopefully there are going to be more of those very soon.
well, so I wanted to plug, because I think it answers the question too. We are developing a sequel, and who the hell knows when it will ever get produced in the current world, but we very much want to do like the next chapter in all of this. And what is really exciting about that is, not surprisingly, the working title right now is Major Premise, and it's all from Allie's perspective. It's all from Peyton's perspective, because obviously we leave the movie with some questions about Ethan, and she leaves the movie with questions about Ethan. And so where do you go when you've seemingly achieved all of your ambitions in academia as, a sort of a woman at the top of that community, yet you are with someone that there's questions and there's paranoia about the nature of who they truly are. So we want to do like a Hitchcockian, suburban Rosemary's Baby-esque thriller that deals with all of that and is really told from Allie's perspective.
She really becomes a protagonist in the final scene. I mean, there's a shift there.
Right.
Yeah, I think that Allie's character is really interesting for this because of the fact that, and I mean, writing a part for a female, obviously, is hard not having that experience. But in academia, I feel like Allie, she couldn't survive as Ethan, right? She couldn't get away with the shit that Ethan gets away with. Like, she has to be the Malcolm and Ethan. Like, she's got to always be playing the politics, just to be on the same level. And I think that was one of the things that's interesting to see, like the banquet scene with Allie, kind of like seeing the world of Ethan on the one side, but then seeing the world with the face that she has to put on just to exist, to be taken seriously. I thought, Peyton did an amazing job sort of balancing that, dynamic in her own way, while Ethan was sort of going through the same, shifting personalities, she was required to do it as well, just to survive.
Amazing. Well, we're running out of time, but I'm sure I can speak for everybody who's watching that we can't wait to see the sequel, because that just sounds amazing. And everybody, congratulations on your world premiere, because it was absolutely fantastic. And hopefully, if you guys liked it as much as I did, please share on social media, sing its praises to the world online. We have a Discord. Go and chat about it on the Discord. And yeah, so thanks so much, guys, for coming out.
Yeah, thanks,
nice to
Justin.
speak to everybody.
Thank you.
And as we say in Montreal, bon cinéma, and have a great night, guys.
Bonne nuit.
Thank you.
Have a good
Meow.
one.
Meow.
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 Meow.